Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order with appropriate notice that has been given. We do have a quorum, and the meeting has been duly called with appropriate notice. And we have some special guests here to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Do you want to announce first?
So this is some of the members of our Special Olympics team, and we are going to start by leading you in the pledge, and
Great.
then we have a few of our folks that I'll kind of say a little more about, and they'll show you a few things.
Okay, please stand. Remove your hats.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect. So I have three amazing ladies here tonight that have really, they've made my job easy because it is a big task to organize several events, make sure that we have uniforms and fundraising and so forth. So I have Miss Brianne Swan. She is our coach for Special Olympics. Then I have Miss Hannah Walker and Miss Caitlin Blevins. They have done all of the fundraising work in order to, and ordering our uniforms and coordinating our activities and so forth. So without these three ladies, we would not be able to do any of what we do. And this group, we participate in three events. One being bowling, which we've already competed in and did amazing. And then we do basketball. It'll be coming up, I believe, February. And we do track and field, which is my absolute favorite, and you're all invited to attend because there's enough room for everybody to be there. So it is usually in April, and I'll make sure that Miss Dewey knows those dates in case y'all want to come and join us. But it is my favorite event for sure. Okay, I'm gonna quit talking and let these ladies talk.
Would you open the link that I sent, please? So thank you so much for allowing us to come. I promise I will be very brief. If we go to the next slide. So we want to specifically give a little shout out to the mountain volleyball team. For the second year in a row, they have designated a night during their regular season for us to be the special guests, our Special Olympics students to be the special guest between their junior high and varsity matches. And this year they sponsored t-shirts for us. And we're also working with the basketball teams for the spring season or winter and spring season to get with them to try to get an additional recognition night as well. There's a couple of photos of participating in, we had a few students participate over the summer at the state event, which was actually in May. And then you see some awesome athletes participating in track and field basketball, and the top right is for bowling. And then next slide, if you don't mind. So I want to also give an additional shout out to everyone that is listed on here. That is all of the generosity from the community that has donated over $8,000 to our Special Olympic uniform caddy, if you will. So Caitlin and I worked together, and in about 45 days we came up with $8,000, and we designed the uniforms. The cotton company was gracious enough to give us a little bit of an additional discount to help our students look nice and snazzy, just like the other athletes in this district. So Gwen already mentioned the three events that we do and the next upcoming events that we have going. So we hope you guys can come and watch us, and we will definitely keep you posted on those event dates.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys for having me.
How many total do we have in?
We have 55 students that are eligible. Last year we averaged 20 students per event, and this year with Caitlin and I taking over that role, we have increased to an average of 30 students per event.
Wow.
So around
What she means is
You are
when,
busy.
That's like that. No, it was a lot for me to handle, and so I was glad that they were able to do some more communication.
Awesome
with
teamwork.
our group.
Thank you for all your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
All right, I need an approval of the agenda and minutes from October 17th and November 4th.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? I guess we already did recognition.
Yeah, see?
See, knocked that out. Good
Fixed
job.
it.
Mrs. Dewey?
All right, so looking back, actually, when we were at the ASBA regional meeting, some of you were able to attend, they talked about us having a legislative liaison, somebody who could basically be a liaison between ASBA and the legislative session, legislators in the session in the winter. Went back, looked at policy, and we needed to go ahead and elect a legislative liaison as a board member. I'll then turn that name into ASBA, and we'll be ready to go. Mr. Pendergrass, you want to say a little bit about the position?
Well, during the legislative session, this is the person that's going to get the updates first from Little Rock, from ASBA or the Administrators Association. So it's kind of important, especially depending on what legislation is up at the time, education related, of course, for us to get that word out so that you can call your legislator and give them your opinion of it, if you will. Anyway, it kind of gives us a voice. I don't know much more than that, and you know, we've done it in the past. It's just a good way to get that voice out on important matters. So,
Who's typically filled that role?
well, because I was on the ASBA board itself, I had typically filled that role.
Okay.
I think it needs to be elected. Obviously, I would not be the appropriate choice this year, so.
This will be back up for re-election after the spring election. So
Well,
whoever we select tonight is just here till May.
Till we reorganize.
Till
Yes,
we
sir.
reorganize, so.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Pendergrass, you could be a great option for tonight as well, too. Because whoever it's gonna be is gonna be up
Temporary.
for
Well, not temporary, but.
temporary.
I'll do it if asked. I'm not volunteering. How's
Okay.
that?
Okay.
I guess you're nominating?
Sure, I will nominate Mr. Pendergrass to fill this role until May.
I thought I'd
Till we
got myself
reorganize.
right out of that.
Yeah, sorry. Well, they won't have to polish your badge.
I'll nominate Mr. Booth.
Is my
Uh-oh.
understanding that board officers cannot hold this position? Is that correct?
When I look at the policy, and we can click on it, Ms. Kelly,
be
would you
good.
mind clicking on the policy? There are, when I look at this, since it is president, secretary, comma, and legislative liaison, you know, the president can't also be the secretary. The vice president can also be the president, can't also be. So to me, when I look at this, my interpretation is it does need to be someone different.
Molly, if nominated, would you fill the role? Would you?
If there's directions on what you're doing, absolutely, yes. I've done a lot of new things this year.
Would it be too much on your plate?
Well,
You have a plate.
Neil just said, it's just.
It's not
looking
much.
at- Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a legislative, while they're in the legislative
I
session.
don't think we'll be sitting at the Capitol
No,
listening to the, or arguing, or lobbying.
I don't think so.
I haven't, we have,
Done
of
that.
course, people on the AS, that works for
That
ASBA
does
that does that.
yes.
And that's really who you would get your information from as far as what's going on with the legislature, so. And that person is usually there completely through the legislative session.
If we nominate and select Ms. Morgan tonight, she'll probably continue that on after we reorganize. It'll make sense to continue on, or at least we'll try to have you continue on.
Unless that's-
Whereas if we select you, Mr. Pendergrass, then we basically put it up for a vote once we have the new board members and everything, and we have a new pool of folks to nominate and choose from. for
I
that
think
role.
continuity would be a good thing.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Molly.
Did we actually make
We
one?
actually
I
have,
would like to nominate Molly Morgan.
we already have.
Well,
do you need
Scott's
to-
already,
Scott, you nominated Mr. Pendergrass. Did you want to?
I will withdraw that, not my nomination, Mr. Pendergrass. How about that?
I
we
would
have a
appreciate
withdrawal
that.
for,
Sure.
I withdraw from the first nomination.
Last resort.
I asked before I drove the bus over, you know.
You know, I like a good challenge. You may.
I have a nomination. Do I have a second? I guess that's how we.
Second.
Daniel, thank you. All in favor? Booyah. Welcome to the legislative session, Miss Molly.
We'll get your name turned in tomorrow.
Turn in your name and get your box of Kleenexes.
Mhm. Okay. Anything you would like to add to that before we
No.
move right along to academic report from Miss Lawrence?
Yes, we're gonna start with Ms. Janelle Ross tonight. I'm gonna let her come on up. She's got a presentation ready for us on our white coat program.
Yes. Speak about this program that I'm so vested and believe so much in. This will be my 4th year in this role, filling it as a white coat teacher and leader for these students, and it has been extremely rewarding and for all that have been involved. So I'm excited to share. Just a little overview of our program, our medical services pathways. On the 3rd slide, sorry, I should give you some update about this. There are several ways that our students can become completers in this program. We have a medical skills pathway, sports medicine pathway. We even have medical office management through our FBLA pathway with Miss Emma Reed, and we have seen the benefit of that in our community, directly even in our office with some internships happening there as partners in our community with different medical offices. And so there's not just the white coat pathway that I want y'all to be aware of the other avenues that students are engaging and benefiting from. Sports medicine, you're going to see them on the sidelines for every sport. I've even had kiddos that have been taking care of the interns. Lauren had a terrible nosebleed in soccer, and some of those sports medicine people stepped up and took care of that. So it is cool to see them at work, finding their purpose, finding their place, and finding motivation to take that next step in our community. The White Coat program, it was designed to teach, expose, immerse, motivate, and inspire. We are asking our students to step outside of the classroom environment, engage deeply with the information that they have learned in their past medical CTE classes. They leave behind the identity of a student and they take on new roles. Each week they are going to be either a physician, a nurse, an aide, a phlebotomist, radiology technician, and even an EMT. So they get to experience the facts that they've learned in anatomy and physiology and real life. They get to back up the work that they've learned, talk about the process of getting to the point of view of working independently. So it's neat to see their critical thinking skills take that next step of putting it into action. The reason that the White Coat was changed and we now have this new simulation project that is started on, COVID shut down all of our internship programs. And I say this is the best thing that came out of COVID. It is neat to see how it has grown in the last 4 years. Prior to COVID, the students felt like all they were getting to do was watch people chart, that they weren't getting to actually experience anything in their internship. And as we all know, tangible learners are the majority of our students now. I think my statistics are it's about 60%. So we like to get hands-on activities for them to learn, like we do in anatomy and physiology in our labs. Scott's given me some animal organs that we've gotten to dissect in our lab. It's deer season. I'm open to those right now. We have had the hospital education team, this really was their brainchild. Sarah Brzezinski is the director of education, and she saw that the simulation lab at the hospital was not getting full utilization. So she had seen this at her prior hospital in Chicago, and so we've seen a beautiful meshing of our partnership with Baxter Health and our high school, working together to provide these opportunities for our students and getting them into the workplace with employable skills as soon as possible. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Our why, opening the eyes of our students who have never had interactions with healthcare workers, other than if they've had a sore throat or they needed immunizations. They may not even know what is possible or what they would enjoy working in healthcare. So we want them to be able to experience this, not just because they had a mother that's a nurse, but in case they've never known anyone that's a nurse. I want them to be exposed to. I was one of those that only thought that there was a doctor or nurse pathway, and our students now understand that is a full range of experiences, everything from being a lab director and going and getting a chemistry degree, which we have one student on that path towards, to becoming a physician. And we've had several that have become EMTs straight out of high school that will have known and seen as well. Who qualifies for this? The requirements are at least a 2.0 GPA. They fill out the application. They have to get teacher recommendations, but then they also sit through an interview process, which I love getting to do that. They're all so nervous, and getting them to make that transition, realizing, oh, I can do this. I'm just having a conversation and building employability skills. That's neat to see right out of the gate. And then in the fall, we open it up. In August, y'all are all invited to our white coat ceremony. And the students take this program very seriously, view being part of this program an honor, which they should. We are now to the process that we have more apply than we even have positions for. We are working on that. We've not had to turn away anyone yet, so we're very grateful for that. And we're looking at more options to expand. But each fall we hold this ceremony with the hospital giving each student a white coat and their own stethoscope. And we have community partners that pay for these items for the students. This year was Farmers and Merchants Bank. And they even got a t-shirt that says Baxter Health White Coat Program that they get to wear every Tuesday and Thursday while they're there. And they view, as they should, wearing this white coat as a big honor and a culmination of what they worked for since the 9th grade when they started this medical pathway. We are in the hospital on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7:45 to 9:15. Every other Friday, we are in the classroom. There's Maddie,
Yep.
and she's a nurse at school.
Yes, she is.
She's almost finished her first
Yeah.
semester. I'm proud of her. At the beginning of the semester, we start off with CPR and work our way towards more difficult scenarios. They learn how to properly put on, take off personal protective equipment. They learn how to place IVs. They learn how to draw blood. They learn how to do even code blue practices. They're working their way up towards a mock trauma. They even get to experience it from the patient perspective, where we are feeding each other with thicket materials, and they get to learn just what it means to be a stroke patient, and that they might have to feed their patients, and what that feels like, what that tastes like. They serve each other this thickened material, and so that's fun to see as well. But we not only do all the hands-on experiences, we talk about mental health as well. Even this past week, we were able to take these seniors, and they were able to paint a picture of what they feel like their current mental health status is at. So it was neat to see all their ideas. I even had a student that painted a picture of these weighted scales with all her college options and all the things that she had going on right now, and just be able to paint what she was experiencing and the stress in her life. And they all reported feeling much better after getting it all out on canvas. They learn about heart rhythms, and they do a radiology presentation where they x-ray chickens, and then they break chickens' bones and see what that looks like, and they talk about what kind of fracture that is and how would we repair that. They even got to take a plate and screw from an orthopedist tray and fix a cow bone that was wrapped in puff pastry to make it even more lifelike, and use the drill to plate and screw that fracture. So lots of different options, and we did, the next one is delivering babies. They have a mannequin that delivers babies. There's just last week they were getting to experience this, and the baby is sprayed with grapeseed oil, which makes it very lifelike, very slick
slippery
for them to catch it on the way out. And it is always one of the favorite experiences of the semester. Each week, like I said, we lead up to our final week of class. We run a mock trauma. On that next slide, if you hit play on the next one, hopefully it will show. I don't know, but maybe. I don't know. Well, on the mock mock traumas, they get to go out in the field, find their patient. Typically, they're in a scenario where last semester the patient was ran over, so they have to go out in the field, load them up on the ambulance. They ride from the ambulance in the field around to the emergency room where they're bringing that patient in through the ER up to the simulation lab, and they're intubating it, starting CPR, starting an IV, running the crash cart, drawing blood. We have a nurse that's recording all the activities. We have somebody else that's taking an x-ray to make sure there's tube placement is right. We also have somebody running a stop the bleed training because they typically have some sort of amputation of some sort. And these mannequins bleed. They bleed, they talk, they yell at you, they say I'm in pain, their pupils dilate. It is extremely lifelike, I have to say. So they really enjoy it. Our next mock trauma is going to be the first week in December on Tuesday and Thursday, so y'all are welcome to come to the hospital. We're on the 3rd floor. You can text me, call me, or just show up. They'll be more than happy to see you. They also have to get to the cause of why the patient is coding. We figure out the cause, and then we work our way back for the treatment, which I love as well. More critical thinking is at play. Which brings me to med science. This is our 3rd year that we've had this opportunity with them, and it's how we utilize our Friday mornings. It is via Zoom through Harvard Medical School, and we have 10 weeks of classes where we cover a different body system every week. And I'll move on to the picture with the patient. So all of our students have their own Zoom, and there is a medical student on the left who is presenting in the emergency room with a problem. So each student is assigned a role. So we have someone who comes in and says, hi, I'm Dr. Coleman, and I'm going to be your doctor today. Can you tell me what brought you in? They start from the chief complaint, work their way through history of present illness, get them medications, get past family history, past surgical history, past medical history, and work up this by ordering different physical exams that they want them to perform, different diagnostic tests that they want them to perform. They develop a list of differential diagnoses, and for every differential diagnosis, they have to tell why they would put that differential up there. What signs and symptoms is that patient telling you as the provider of why you would order those tests? Why would you order a CBC? Well, she's got a fever and she's had a cough for 3 days. They have to know this information in order to even get a CBC ran. They develop skills between each student being able to talk to a patient and relate to them. They do not, the patient does not make it easy. They are trained to make it hard for students. Their growth throughout the semester of them being scared to death to talk to somebody on the screen, especially someone from Harvard Medical School. By the end, they realize the only thing that separates us is geography. That is it. We have just as many skills, we have just as much potential that we can chase our dreams and do whatever we want. And seeing that transpire over the semester is amazing. You can see in that bottom right picture, not only do they have to know the disease process of what they diagnosed this patient with, they have to know back to the cellular level. So last week they had a patient with mono, and that in this picture they're drawing up the B cells and the T cells from the white blood cells, and why are they in overgrowth for this patient that has mono, what that looks like, why are we scared that she can't go back to playing soccer because she might have a splenic rupture, those sorts of things. So they have prepared for this. They study the entire immune system before they're presented their case, and it's neat to see them process those things and come up with a correct diagnosis and treatment plan. That is a picture of their physical exam template that they have to figure out. And then they're also taught how to read CT scans. So in this CT scan, it shows that the patient's spleen is gigantic and it is displacing internal organs. It's a very real CT, but a lot of the times they're not as revealing as that one is, but they're able to say, oh my goodness, yeah, we need to get this patient to the ER, to the OR because they're bleeding and they're in the middle of a splenic rupture. So that happens on Fridays. We have 2 left for the semester, and I would love for y'all to come witness that too. It's neat to see that too as well. In fact, our next Friday, though, is Career Day, where we'll have several different Harvard physicians come in and tell their journey of where they got to where they are today and what that looks like. They also have a summer program that our students are invited to attend. It is invitation. It's application and invitation only, but since we have this program here, our students are given preferential treatment if they want to attend in the summer, and I look forward to growing that as well. Looks awesome for them to attend and to experience that. I appreciate the time to speak about it. I know there was a lot of information to divulge, and I hope I didn't take over my time.
So Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yes.
Those are the 3 big days.
Yes.
And
Where
I'm
is
sure
Friday?
you said this and I missed it somehow, but how many students do we have involved in it?
15 each semester,
Okay.
typically, sometimes 16.
For them to apply to this program, they obviously have some interest in the medical sciences. Do we have any data how many are either going into the medical field or continuing their education in medical sciences? And those that don't, maybe that's a good thing too, that hey, they looked at it, saw, hey, that's not for me and I want to look at something else. But how many of these students move on into that medical field?
I don't know the specific statistic on that. I do know it's the vast majority because I do keep in contact with all of them. I don't have a specific number though. It is the majority, but like I tell them when they get to the end, if they don't, that takes off a lot of majors that they don't have to burn through with their money and time. So that, consider that a huge
Yeah,
win
I do
if
too.
they decide not to.
I know one.
You know one?
Yeah.
I know one that was before this in the old program.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really neat to see them progress and such big cheerleaders of them as they do this. So, when Maddie ran up to me, TJ Mike said, "I didn't know nursing school." So excited. So, any other questions?
Well, thank you very much. That
Thank
was
y'all.
nice and
Appreciate
thorough.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
20.
I'm gonna follow up something that cool.
Some
Hey,
great data.
And Miss Becca, Kansas, can you want to come on up? Okay, we're kind of a duo here. I know, it's really hard to follow white coat, and I say
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but we are excited because we went from having pretty much no data to now having piles and piles of data. So we're going to try to target one area for you guys tonight, and what we're going to target tonight is our K-3. We've talked about the universal screener in previous meetings, and we're going to actually show you a little bit of data that we got from that. The hope moving forward is that this screener will be given at the beginning of the school year. It was a little bit late this year because the state did not quite have everything worked out. And Becca and I would both say they're still working out some kinks, but we are kind of in our pilot year with this. And I do want to take a second to brag on our teachers because this has been a huge shift for them. A lot of change, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of extra time spent on screeners that we've never had before. So kind of learning how to shift their time a little bit in the classroom and with their students to try to meet the new requirements of Atlas. So what we are showing you tonight is just the initial information we got on their universal screener. This slide has a lot of information on it. It's basically going to show you their initial performance distribution by grade. You can see there's kindergarten, and this is all literacy focused tonight. So there's kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade. They do have second and third out of order on our sheet. This is just some fun things with Atlas. So just when you're looking at that, just know that third grade is above second grade on there. So the color orange, that's not exactly what we get excited to see. That color indicates at risk or potential risk in some areas of literacy, and the blue shows ready. And what you're going to see, I put at the bottom just so you can see state averages. Our numbers are in line with state averages. So when you first see that, it's a little bit, I would just say a little bit overwhelming. But what we know is when we dig into it by grades, Kelly, if you want to go forward to the next one, you can see when it breaks apart by strands, it starts looking a little different. So the way this works is it breaks, this is our kindergarten slide, And it has broken their pieces into language comprehension and a phonemic awareness. And you can see the color distribution starts changing more to, it starts trending more to blue. And so that's obviously what we would hope to see. And you can do your state comparison to Mount Hope Kindergarten. And you can see what it's showing us. Language comprehension, actually we have about 3/4 of our students are showing readiness there. And when you go to phonemic awareness, you're at about 50-50, which is what you would expect to see for kindergarten. When you move forward to first grade, you're going to see the bands there go from language comprehension to phonemic awareness, decoding, and encoding. And this is also in line with, I mean, if you're a first grade teacher, this would trend about what you would expect. You're going to see, you know, they're kind of moving into that decoding range. We're showing we still have about, you know, is that 25% of our students are still showing at risk there. So they're working hard on decoding. And then the encoding piece is, they're trending, obviously they have about 74% of their students there are showing readiness. When you go to second grade, you can see their initial oral reading fluency is very, very high orange, high at risk, but what we realize is when you break that apart again, with phonemic awareness, decoding, and encoding, their numbers start trending more towards ready. But obviously we still have some at risk there, and that's what Becca's going to talk to you about in just a second. What are we doing about the at risk? I do want to point out on the oral reading fluency, this was when they were reading with headsets into the computers, timed reading, and this is part of the new, it's just kind of understanding how to take the test. And so we, if you would compare this to our DIBELS oral reading fluency numbers, this was much higher for risk than what we would normally see with DIBELS. So then that's when we start breaking it apart into the categories and you go, okay, this is looking more like what we are used to seeing with DIBELS. When you look at third grade, you'll see that very, very high orange bar, our school bar, but if you also look at the state, I mean, everything is pretty much exactly in line with what they were seeing across the state. So all of this being said, what do we do with this? We get this universal screener. It's great information to have. We see a lot of at-risk numbers on there. What are our teachers doing? And then that's what Ms. Camp is going to talk to you about tonight. What's the plan? How do we execute our support for students that are showing indicators of being at risk?
Before Ms. Camp, just a real quick.
Yes.
When you look at that oral reading fluency graph, please know this is statewide. There are some tweaks that need to happen in the system even. I was talking to, well, accountability, the director of accountability today for the state, and she said they're even redoing things to where schools in the South need things because they're listening on headphones. Well, certain dialects are harder for certain parts of our state. And so that's something they're looking at too, as to, what's a happy medium. So just, they're still working on this, but that doesn't mean that we don't have work to do ourselves.
So the other part of oral reading fluency that they're changing, they realized that the screener did not pick up on rate. It was only picking up accuracy, which is part of being fluent. How quickly can you read? So they've already fixed that part. So the one thing with all of this with Atlas is they are listening and they are out and talking, and so things are changing every day. I think at one point I emailed building principals and said, well, we're on plan D because we just keep moving. But looking at this data as a teacher, it's overwhelming, but it's also exciting because forever we've had summative data at the end of the year. Let's look at where our kids scored and then let's try to pinpoint what those deficiency areas are. What the state of Arkansas has done has built a system that pinpoints those areas. So teachers have a prescriptive diagnostic level to teach every single kid in their classroom. It doesn't make the workflow any easier to lift because it is a shift. It's no longer, we have testing day and then teach. It is a constant cycle of quick assessments and moving forward and quick assessments and moving forward. So when looking at the universal screener, these are the 4 areas. In any area that a child flags in risk, then the state says the teachers will give what's called a testlet. The testlets are about 90 seconds for a kid that's on task. So I would say 2 to 3 minutes at most per kid. So it's a very short diagnostic. But the testlets were in a list that were about this long. And it was very overwhelming for our teachers to look and go, what do we do? So I pulled it apart and made what I call the testlet workflow document, or I call it our money document, because Desi has asked if they could use it. I'm like, if you pay me, that'd be great. But if you'll click on that link, Kelly. So basically what it is a teacher. So let's say the kid flags in decoding. So I'm at risk in decoding, so the teacher would find decoding. Let's scroll down to 2nd grade. So they'll go down to 2nd grade and you see all of these testlets are listed, which are all different skills that a 2nd grade teacher would teach. So they start at the top, which is the most simple skill, and they test until the student scores at a failure rate, which is below an 8 out of 10. So it could be the very first one, it could be the last one. But again, you're talking about 90 seconds. It's just the logistics of how do I get the kid logged in and get them here. But this has allowed our teachers to exhale a little bit because it's very specific. So let's say we click on one of those, Kelly, it doesn't matter which one. So if the kid fails on that first one, then the next layer to that is, okay, teacher, here's where the student's struggling. So we need you to provide intervention and we need you to teach. So in the Atlas portal, there is an IRP, which is an individualized reading plan that is visible to our parents through the parent portal, that the teacher will go in and this is what they put on it. So what resources are we using? What intervention are we using? How frequently do we need to do this for this kid to be able to master it? So our group of teachers that have met together through all of the lovely Zooms and figuring this out have worked together to come up with this. So the lift is not quite as heavy for our teachers. So go back to the slides. Next, go back to the slides, please. Next tab over. Go and you can skip that one because I just talked about it. That's what the IRP looks like for our students. And here's the good thing with this. Anywhere a kid goes in Arkansas, it travels with them. So a kid that is bouncing back and forth through a couple of districts, teachers are going to have this data available to them immediately. It also carries with a kid from year to year. So from kindergarten all the way through 10th grade, you're going to have stackable data to look at on a kid, which is excellent. So just to show you what our teachers are doing on the next slide. Yesterday, I did this yesterday. K-3 teachers have given 1,387 testlets, which is a huge number to think about. Wow, I mean, I spent all day one day at Nelson Wilkes. I thought it'd be fine. Holy moly, that was a really long day, but our teachers are jumping in and doing it. Our grades 3-10 are not left out of this mix. They don't have the prescriptive testlets, but they have a more specific interim assessment that you're getting back some really good data. And our fall window is open right now. As of yesterday, 8,260 interim assessments have been given with our kiddos. Teachers are taking that data back in their CT teams, pulling it apart. Laura Strider has met and Judy have met with all of them to say, here's how you look at this data, here's what you do. Lots of hours have been spent digging into this and using it to better our education and not waste our time, which is great. So coming up next, this is Plan D. As Judy said in the beginning, the universal screener is supposed to happen the first 30 days of school. It didn't because it wasn't ready from the state. So it was pushed and pushed and pushed. So because it was so late, the state has now pushed the interim winter window to January. So now the next layer to the big interim screener kind of mindset will happen in January. There'll be a new set of testlets that roll out. Teachers will keep this process rolling. And then we just keep going. So I think it's exciting to be able to know what do my kids need in my class. It's just a big shift in this is what we're all using to determine proficiency. But I'm super proud of them because it's been a very big learning curve for all of us, and we're all still here, so it's great.
And I'll say one more thing about that 310 piece where we've been visiting the collaborative teams. They have been looking at the data from interims, which is their current student population. They've been looking at it from a grade level view, and then we've been looking at it through a classroom lens and then through an individual student profile. And they're actually using those student profiles to set some student-led goals for their own learning, so the students see how they're doing. And the great thing about the reports, and the parents have access to these as well, is it's very specific about next steps and how they can improve their scores. So a lot of good things happening. We try to keep the numbers a little bit, condensed, but there's plenty of data. If you want to ever see it, just reach out. We can show it to you however you'd like to
I can
see
set
it,
you
so.
up your very own Atlas account. So if you want to dig in here, what I've told teachers is don't be afraid to play around, you're not gonna break it. It takes lots of clicks to get somewhere, but usually you can find out what you need. But I'll be glad to walk you through. If you want your own account, let's go, we'll figure it out together.
Well, and I do want to say one more thing about our principals. They've been coming to all the meetings with their teachers, so they're seeing the data as well. They're making their own spreadsheets. Like, there's some really great things happening as far as how we're using it in the buildings. So I do want to brag on them and the teachers one more time, because this has been, it has felt very uncomfortable pretty much for everybody when you say back up. But we're almost to the next interim and
Handle the
working our way through
challenge.
touch work, so it's gonna be okay. Any
Thank you
questions?
for all your hard work.
Yes, ma'am, I have one. How do we measure, so results matter, right? We're putting lots and lots of hours and resources and time into this. How do we measure the results of all that time and effort? Like, this is the first year, we don't have previous year's data, et cetera. So how do we measure, like,
We
what's
have
the
some,
metric that we've seen that this is working, this is giving that improvement?
So Department of Ed is working on the Z-score correlation, that it will compare to last year's summative and this year, because there's two different assessments. So that will be coming from ADE. But I think you also look at these results are available immediately as well. We didn't say that. So instead of waiting months to see what your kids do, as soon as the tests are submitted, within the day, I've not seen it take longer than a day, teachers are getting these results back. So I think, to answer that question, those orange bars are going to go down. If we are doing what the program has aligned for us to do, then at our next interim, that data is going to shift, and we'll see more proficiency and less at risk.
I think that's really important point, is that intervention needs to happen early.
Yep.
And so that quick turnaround is, that's important.
And it is happening. I can tell you 100% it is happening. Our interventionists have input into this. Our special ed co-teachers have input into this. It is not all on the classroom teacher. If they're working on some project in music class that is into this level, that music teacher has access. So it is everyone that has contact with this kiddo.
And they have released what their comp performance level descriptors for every standard, every grade level, every content, and within that it shows you the level 1, 2, 3, and 4 descriptors, almost like a rubric. So our teachers are breaking that language apart and using that language when they're asking questions and looking at their own assessments in class. So there's been some new tools we've been given that we should be able to utilize to help our students.
How often are the testing on?
So there's 4 windows. So the universal screener window in the wonderful world of Atlas, when it's all fixed, will be the first 30 days of school.
Okay.
Then you have a fall window, a winter window, which is January, February, and then your summative window.
So pretty much the same as your school.
Yes,
Quarters.
but with K3, those test slits are happening all the time.
So it's progress monitoring.
It is.
Right, okay,
It is.
Kind
And
of.
then they do interims as well too, though, and they do
okay.
K2, they'll have a summative that looks like 310 for the first time
Good.
in our state
Cool.
summative testing, so we're excited about that.
Exciting.
You're excited.
It's good. Good stuff.
Any other questions? We're happy
Thanks,
to-
guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank
All right, Ms. Cotter. Come follow that. Yeehaw.
All 66 people.
That's a terrible thing they do.
I know. I got
You should probably got the Pledge of Allegiance.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
We'll start with the statement of changes in fund balance for the month ending October 31st of 2024. We ended the month of October with $13,348,457.13. When we compare this to October of 2023, I want to explain. In October of last year, our balance was 15.5.
I don't want you to be alarmed, because what has happened is the debt service payment is typically paid in November, and it was paid in October, and so that has affected that balance, but it will catch up next month. So just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. You can see in Fund 4,000 that we did make the debt service payment of $1.7 million to the principal and $494,359.76 to the interest. Since we had paid that in October, Ms. Donna felt like we just needed to go ahead and leave that in 4,000, and we will make that transfer in November to zero that fund out. Any questions? Moving on to the next statement of changes in revenue expenditure and expenditures for the month ending October 31st of 2024. We had total revenues of $6,067,639.44, and the system reported the revenue or the expenditures at $4,748,972.12, which is right in line with expenditures this time last year. However, we need to go ahead and consider the $1.7 million that was paid for the principal. So that would actually bring our expenditures to 6.4 in the month of October. And we've made good notes about that, so that as we look at this time next year, we remember what had occurred.
A bonus.
Moving on to the next monthly operating fund balance tracking, looking at funds 1, 2, and 4 combined. Again, because of that debt service payment, that's going to affect this number. So we ended the month of October with $6,669,293.81. I would like to report, I did some comparisons on what our taxes, incoming tax money looked like. And we were up, when we compare October last year to October this year, we were up $500,000 on revenue. And then in November, we've already received that, and so it's up about $67,000 over last year for November too. So those are good things. Next, we have the statement of changes in activity funds for the month ending October 31st of 2024. And we ended with all activity funds combined of $635,112.17. And as you look at, just as an overview of this, there's been lots of athletic activities that has increased the gate funds, as well as fundraising going on with the high school. Everything else was pretty much typical. The following reports are the system reports to support the information that I've just shared, as well as the check register for period 4.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Cotter. All right, enrollment report.
We currently, today, 3,752 students, and most of you noticed that number is continuing to go down. I did a little research. If you don't mind, I'll share just a little bit
Please
what
do.
I found out. So one of the things we have talked about is homeschool. Last year, we had a total of 362 students that were homeschooled. We only have 325. So that number's actually down a little. So they're not going homeschool. I did call our schools around us. Viola's up a couple. Calico's down, Salem's down, Yellville's steady, Flippin is down almost 90.
Ooh, that hurts.
Over
That's
2
good.
years, over 2 years, so they were preparing. And then Cotter actually is up a couple. So that's just some surrounding districts. Well, so that didn't answer my questions. because those were gonna be the two easy answers, right? So I did call Danny Pugsley at the chamber, and we talked for about 30 minutes. Ms. Lawrence was with me. So our population in the area is growing at about 2% a year. So where are these people? Where are they going? They're not young families. So she said she does not get any inquiries about housing or schools or interest from young families. The major, and it's not the retirees that are coming. So, well, who is it? Well, it's people around my age. They are those, I'll be an empty nester in 18 months. I'm looking around this board and we've got some empty nesters. Not quite retired, but empty nesters. And with the current housing situation, that's who can afford to be here right now. And that was per Ms. Pugsley, that's her opinion. And from the information that she gets as far as people calling and inquiring, they're just not hearing from young families. She did have some ideas that I'm going to be working with Ms. Crawford, and I'll be coming back to you all about some ideas just to make sure we're getting the information out there about the district and doing everything we can to make sure people do know we're here. And this district is worth moving to Mountain Home for, and we need to make sure folks know that. I did hear of about 35 new mid-level executive type positions that were going to come through Baxter. Your Baxter. There was
What
some
used to be Baxter, yes.
Well, so I guess Vantech is
Yeah.
is taking over a third or so, a full quarter of the plant, and Baxter's remaining in the rest as of last week. So it's Baxter who's going to be bringing these folks in. So that sounds promising as far as young families, hopefully, or families with school-age children. So that's what I found out, and like I said, I got some ideas, but we're going to work through some of those and maybe have a report about some things we'd like to do soon.
Very good. Do we have a transfer update?
4 in, 4 out. And one of the ones that went out was already homeschooled, so they'd never been in the system, so right at even.
Okay. Mr. Knight, facility projects update, please.
So with the heavy rain we got last week, I think you all got to witness that. You had a meeting there the day after, and Guyberry was more like a sponge than a school. We did apply for that for partnership funding. We were approved. The project was approved. We were not being approved for funding for that until approved or not approved for that until May. What that showed was that regardless of whatever they decide, we've got to fix the roof. And we can't wait for another partnership cycle 2 more years to deal with it. So Mrs. Dewey and I went ahead and filled out the paperwork and sent in a form and a letter, and the facilities division has allowed us to begin that construction early if we all want to. All that means is we can start getting with the architect, start getting that going, hopefully get it done sooner than sort of waiting for May to find out if we get money or don't get money to begin that project. So I've attached that early start agreement there. Doesn't mean if they were going to approve it, they're still going to approve it in May. And honestly, probably with the timeline of stuff, architect, December, you guys probably won't get to vote on it until around then anyway. Do it, so.
So we throwing bids out there?
Not yet.
Not yet, until we
Not
get the
yet.
approval.
We'll do it before, it's all right with you all. We'll do it before partnership funding's announced, but it still has to be, first thing you all will need to do for me is I have to bring you an architect contract to, because this is over 100,000, so it is required. So we'll do that, and we'll start working on it, and then from those plans, they'll do the bids, and then you guys can vote to approve it.
Any questions for Mr. Knight? I guess not.
Sorry.
Gotta fix the roof.
Gotta fix the
One of the
roof.
most important things you got.
Gotta fix the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad.
Yes,
Bad that day.
it's been there for a
Yeah, it's
long
bad.
time.
So it was re-roofed since I've been on the board.
There's. that one-
Exactly when, I don't recall.
Yeah.
24 years
And,
ago.
and it's like Jason said, it really doesn't matter, it needs fixed.
Sure.
And the
But-
weird
but
thing
it would
about
be
that roof
curious.
is it's three different types of roofs. You
Yeah.
have the shingles, you have a metal roof, and then you have like a TPO roof, so.
It's been added on to that many times.
So true.
Yeah.
In the paperwork, and it's considerably more than the kindergarten. Is that roof more complicated, bigger than the
Bigger
kindergarten?
square
Seems like-
footage, and I will give you some really loose numbers if you don't hold me to it.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
sure.
So, the roof looks like it's gonna be just over $1 million. Our share of that, if we get funding,
Yeah.
640,000. So significantly more money this time than when we had the junior high. So things have changed in the community, and we're looking at 500 something thousand. What did we get, 100?
I think it covered the sales.
Yeah.
Covered the architect.
Yeah.
So, it's a really good share this time. So
Fingers crossed.
in the sixes.
Fingers crossed we get that partnership funding, and
This one's
it's gotta be done
really
one way or
important.
another.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Got to.
Thank you.
Hold your breath.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Knight.
Thanks.
Before we move into action items, I would like to recognize Jason Simons, a former student. What year did you graduate?
2011.
11. And you're here on a college program?
Yes.
Gonna be a teacher?
Yes, I'm a student at ACUMH right now, and I'm here to observe the school board meeting today.
You want to run for school board in May? Oh, wait, then you can be a teacher, so never mind, never mind. Never mind. Well, thank you for coming. It's good to see a little turnaround and come back to where you came from. Who was your favorite teacher?
Oh,
Oh, goodness.
Oh,
Jennifer, were you teaching in TED? Oh, yeah, you were, yeah, that's right.
Just yesterday.
Just yesterday. You could say her. That's okay.
I didn't have her class, but
Ah.
I'm loving this win.
Oh, yes. How could you not love it? Well, thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Okay.
Who's been your favorite coworker?
Oh, favorite coworker.
Thank you.
That you better keep on the table there. All right, Mr. Engel, PPC, request to approve stipend.
I was also a teacher when Mr. Engel was in high school. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Class 2011.
Really?
Uh,
That's bizarre. Are you serious? You're class of 2011?
oh yeah, represent.
Wow.
I'm
Full
here
circle.
to present the esports stipend that has made it through the journey to you guys.
Esports.
Really, what they're doing is amazing. They have 26 kids who are dedicated to being there. It is a AAA sanctioned event or
Yeah.
activity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the real deal. So we're asking for a tier 2 $1,500 stipend, which is pretty comparable to other stipends across the state. Just a lot of good things going on, and we've got something for everybody at the high school.
I totally laughed at my kid when he was in school and said, "But I could get a scholarship for this." I'm like, "No, you cannot. Now you can."
You can.
I know. They had a really good career.
I don't, it's not a scholarship team, but it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Well, and this is the way the world is moving towards, so. Okay, do I have a motion?
I move the board approves the recommendation.
I second it.
Thank you, Neil. Motion from Neil, second from Molly. Any discussion?
Mr. Engel, not so much about this one in particular. How many more extracurricular activities are out there that may be eligible for stipends?
That's
Because what I'm
hard to
getting,
put something. a number to.
we've added several here in the last year that have traditionally not gotten stipends and have gotten stipends. And I know one of my concerns is, hey, once everyone realizes, hey, I spend a little bit of time or a lot of time outside of school and I've never gotten a stipend, but they're getting a stipend, so we're gonna start seeing more and more stipend requests come in. And so not so much talking about this one, which I think is a good activity for these students, but how many more, hey, I do this, I need a stipend as well too. Like, do you have any idea of how many more positions out there they're gonna be asking for stipends when we realize, and as they are realizing, as the staff is realizing, well, hey, I need to get a stipend for my time here as well too. Any idea?
I wouldn't think more than 10. I mean, just, I'm spitballing that.
Yeah.
I would,
but,
Like 10
I would
more?
think it'd be less than that.
yeah, that's at most, and and Ms. Dewey's actually gonna present it shortly to clean up the policy a little bit, so instead of coming every board meeting, we can approve them for the next year.
Right.
We're getting smarter here.
Yes.
That was my next question.
learning.
Is this immediate, or is this for next budget, next year?
This one would be based on policy and based on how things have gone this year. This would be for the year. Now, I'm gonna present something later on that will clean that up a little bit, but it would be, what I'm presenting to you all tonight is for the proposals for the 25-26 policy manual.
But this is for this year.
Yes, ma'am.
This is for next.
And all that's gonna do is where we don't get it just steady, the steady
It
drip
doesn't-
throughout the year, we
right.
get it all at
Still
once
get 'em.
So we
before the
can
end of the
budget
year.
for
Exactly.
next
So,
year.
every opportunity I've tried to support the teachers. We need to pay them, we need to recognize them. So this is not about specific whoever's asking for these stipends. It's just the concern about the stipends in general. Last August, when we looked at seventh grade cheer, this board very clearly asked PPC, hey, put a framework out there for us on what rates a stipend, what doesn't rate a stipend, and that didn't happen. Instead, we had a process now of getting signatures to approval, but it without any structure on what rates it, what doesn't. I feel like anyone who does any extracurricular time may feel like, hey, well, I need to go put in for a stipend, and then it puts the pressure on the principal, the superintendent, these committees to, do I do it or do I not? Whereas I would like a structure on, yep, these activities, this is how we award stipends, or these are the activities that rate stipends, instead of every time we've got that, well, gosh, here's another, do we do it or not? And we know the teachers, I think some of y'all, I think certainly on the approval chain, know who's involved, and it puts pressure on those people. So without that structure, we're now like, does this person do it or not? So I would still really like a structure before we keep getting all these new stipend requests.
And that's actually, at PPC was
Yeah,
discussed.
that's what-
PPC put one on hold for that very reason. We are collecting job descriptions. There will be, it's still highly, it's going to be subjective, but that is, I think that's the can of worms that's been opened, is as people start getting approved for stipends that they truly do deserve, there are other people who think, well, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And it will be easier to move forward once we have all those job descriptions uniform and detailed. And we're getting there. We're
We
close.
started, I mean, we're working through it. I've kind of taken that as my responsibility. And I have those, I've already gotten some, but those are set up. I'll be visiting with people who hold stipends starting the Monday after we get back from Thanksgiving. So I'll go to the high school on Monday, then the junior high, and then Kingston, because those are where the majority of those stipends are. And it is only the academic stipends. We have not even looked at the athletic. And what I'm asking folks to do, and I did share this with PPC at their last meeting, the skeleton or the format is very simple, and it's a job description. As a classroom teacher, I have a specific job description, right? But that some classroom teachers stay later than others. Some classroom teachers do a little more than others. So the job description that we're going to be doing is just that. It is a simple, bare bones, this is the minimum expectations for you to receive this job and have a stipend for it. Is that fair to how we've explained it? So we'll have something that then PPC feels like they'll have more of and Finance Committee, because they're the first stop. They feel like they'll have more of a, like you said, what fits where as far as tiers go, and they can compare based on that. I'm not sure it's going to be enough, but it is definitely the first step. Because like you said, how do you then compare? It's the first step.
Sure.
It's got to be done. So I hope to have those done by January, early January.
So we can expect to see more stipends that haven't traditionally been
I hope.
a stipend-worthy position, but that we're gonna start paying more stipends,
Oh,
I
no.
think, more than likely.
I don't know.
That's what, that was that first question.
I
I
We're
don't
out
know.
there.
We're
I'm
not
curious.
getting those. I mean, PPC is not receiving those. The principals aren't. I haven't. I mean, we've gotten two
Okay.
really brand new ones. Is that two?
Two.
Two
And we've
this
had
year.
two that have been put on hold, one by finance, one by PPC.
And those weren't new.
Correct, those were just movements, and I don't think either committee was comfortable saying, well, how do I know to move here without something to go off of? But I think no matter what we do, there's gonna be some subjectivity, and this is just almost an impossible thing to get perfectly right, so we just have to progressively make it better as we go.
And reevaluate as we go.
All the
towards
time.
it. Yeah. Okay.
Just like adding a new one, if you're adding a new program, that person should know if it's stipend worthy or not before, and if there's, and that's how it is. We don't get a stipend for doing this.
We're gonna have a school board stipend.
Might be a law against that one.
I'll drink to
Yeah,
that.
Louisiana, you get paid well,
Sure do.
and Springfield.
Yep.
Okay. Motion, discussion, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Engel.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Mendleski, request to approve security camera project. Hello.
Hello.
We are ready to upgrade Nelson Wilkes with new security cameras. Last year we did Guy Berry we're moving over to a different brand camera, ones that are kind of government compliant, some of the new standards and stuff. And so we did Guy Berry last year. Reason we didn't have that board approved is we did all of the labor ourselves on it. We ran all the cabling and everything for it, so the equipment was under $20,000. We're kind of strapped for time, so we're contracting out the labor to run the cabling and all of that for this project too. So that's what put it over 20. So we did a sealed bid on it, and we did two different options, option 1 and option 2. So option 1 was our department hangs the cameras and tweaks them, and sets them all up and all that stuff. Option 2 is the vendor hangs the cameras. Both options, they run all the cabling, they terminate all the cabling. It's just whether or not we hang the cameras or not. And I was hoping that would save us quite a bit of money. Across most of the bids, it did anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000. So for that amount of money, I'll hang the cameras. I basically have to touch them anyway. So we went with option 1 on the lowest bidder. This is a different company that we've not used before. I did really like when I met the guy that came over for a walkthrough. And basically I know what the equipment is. We're not getting something that I don't know what it is. So, and we checked references on the installation, cable running and stuff like that, and references were really good for this company. So, we decided to recommend that one. 66 cameras, 3 recorders. We'll be taking that campus from 2 recorders and 21 cameras to almost tripling it. So that campus has been short on cameras for a while, so it was time to get it upgraded. So option 1 was $27,701.87 for the equipment and cabling. I'd like to recommend approval for that.
Make a motion, we approve the surveillance system.
Second.
I have a motion from Daniel and a second from Jason. Any discussion?
Just a little bit. What do we actually do with them? Are we recording and going back and looking
Go
at
back.
events? Or are these set up in office?
Some of
as a live
both.
feed,
So
or-
most of the buildings, Nelson Wilkes is one of them, that they have a large TV in the front office that runs a tour of the cameras. So they will see stuff that comes up, or and one of the cameras always stays there, and that's that entry foyer camera. So they can always kind of see who's coming in from a different angle before they buzz them into the office door. If something doesn't look right, they can kind of get, another view of it. They are just recording, so if there's any kind of incidents, we can go back. Right now, we strive for at least 2 weeks of recordings. Most of them get 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. So it's mainly reactive. There's some technology that we're kind of looking at that might utilize them in a proactive way too.
The principals review them once in a while? I mean, how many times do we go back into that recording? And this is, I'm sorry, you probably can't answer this.
Well,
but
it is quite a bit. I mean,
I would like to know what kind of frequency it actually gets.
I mean, I would say for a student-related incident,
Yeah.
probably per campus, an average of 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay.
For an employee-related incident, especially during the wintertime, probably once or twice a week, that video gets pulled.
I think high school's more than that with students. You think high school's probably more than 3 or
Yeah, I think
4?
the older grades, I mean, I think they,
But then kinda
almost daily,
average.
probably junior high school. And those admins, they're kind of pulling their own video more often. So sometimes I'll get a request, hey, will you pull this for this time? We'll try to, see what's going on. But, yeah, probably more often in the older grades. But a lot of it is insurance-related things too, so.
Is there a redundancy on it, on the recording? Is there SD cards in the camera and at the recorder now, or?
No,
Yeah?
just hard drives in the recorder. The cameras are capable of SD cards, these are. We monitor them pretty closely.
I wasn't sure if you were doing both these days or what anymore.
No, we're just mainly doing hard drive storage.
Okay.
66 cameras at Nelson Wilkes, are those going into the common spaces, or are they looking in the classrooms as well too?
No
Is that-
classroom cameras, so your common areas, gym, cafeteria, all the hallways. Outside coverage is a big thing at Nelson Wilkes, there's very few outside cameras. There's some on the car line, nothing in the back of the playground. So that basically almost everything will be covered on the outside. And then hall coverage will be greatly improved too, so.
Is there any reason why we don't put them in the classrooms?
We just never have.
Okay.
Never have. We have just not gotten into that. Now Guy Berry does have some in classrooms, but we just haven't. And honestly, I'll get one tomorrow, but I have not had a request, somebody asking. We have had them in some of our special education classrooms, mainly for supervision, not necessarily because we had 2 classrooms going and there was entry, between both, but there would maybe be an aide, so the teacher needed to be able to watch as well, but.
There were some of the computer labs back in the day, and I think that was just for asset protection, but most of those labs have moved and we've not moved the cameras, we've just pulled the cameras out.
So it hasn't gotten to that point yet, but other schools, they are putting them in the classroom to actually for the teacher, for their protection.
Protection, yes.
Is this expandable? If we come around next year and
It
say,
is.
you know what, let's put them in the classrooms, we can
Yeah,
expand the system.
yeah,
to-
I mean, the way that and these are the maps that we do for all the campuses before we even did the project. So, it's a building map, showing the coverages basically, and then we split the building up as far as cable length. So there's a recorder here, and a recorder here.
Gotcha.
So we keep them all kind of local, and then that way, if there's an outage, if one recorder dies, you don't lose everything, you just lose a section until that can be replaced. So we can always upgrade a recorder to a larger one if we need to for classroom cameras, or just add one next to it, so, yep.
Any other discussion? Barring none.
Barring none.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Steve. You might as well just stay right there for the request to approve access control project.
So I think we all knew there would be a round 2 to this, and there'll probably be a round 3 and a round 4. Mr. Helmer kind of worked with the building administrators, went around, see kind of what doors that they would want added on a second round. The original plan, when he talked to them, was almost double this, and we kind of wanted to cut that back a little bit, just for funds and kind of keep that within a more reasonable number right now, and kind of do the critical doors that they need done in round 2. So there might be a certain student access door that maybe didn't get missed, but they didn't realize how much they would utilize that. So, or an entry door where there's not really a parking lot, but a lot of people walk around to that door. So we kind of hit a couple doors at each campus, and it's similar with that too. There's maps available that show all the existing doors and what doors we're adding to that. We just don't kind of put that out publicly. So we put that out for bid as well. We had 2 sealed bids come back on that. A different company that than did the original install, came in lower. And it is a company that we know of. We do a little bit of business with them on some software licensing. They've kind of opened up the security division and are kind of pushing the access control and stuff. So they're a PDK dealer, the same brand as what we have. And it's kind of like the cameras. Like, I know the equipment, it's PDK equipment, it's your standard mag locks and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's hard to justify the difference in those bids to stay with the company that we've been using for round 2. Round 3, they might get it back. You know, I don't know. So, but we are going with that company that put a bid in for $31,615, and that will actually anticipated to be paid for from the building fund for this round 2. That's kind of why we wanted to keep it a little bit lower too. Well, hopefully we can get some grant money down the road and do more with that. So I recommend that y'all approve that project for $31,615.
Make a motion, we approve the recommendation as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Jason and a second from Scott. Any discussion?
This is an install price, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Turnkey, basically.
Pretty good price.
Yeah.
Turnkey,
Yes,
oh, that's
turnkey
funny.
with
Turnkey.
scan.
Turnkey or scan key.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Dewey, request to approve proposal policy 3.1 MH.
All right, so we have been talking about the policy that was, that we adopted last year, the board adopted last year concerning stipends. Well, one of the things that we realized pretty quickly, and honestly, Finance Committee is who brought this to our attention, is they began asking, well, how can we approve this if we don't know if it's budgeted for? Well, that makes sense, right? So I am proposing, do you clear to click on the proposal? So as you know, what happens with this is I bring this to you, and if you approve it tonight, I will take it to PPC. PPC will then approve it or not, but they'll bring it back again to the board. So you will have the final say. This is just the way this goes. So my proposal is that we revise the entire last paragraph to say this process must be completed by June 30, and changes will be applied to the next school year. So this means everything can be, but any changes the board agrees to on stipends can be budgeted for the next year. That doesn't mean that you might not get a request for a new stipend if this goes through in September of 25, but it doesn't go until the next year. So this proposal would be for the 25-26 policy manual for the policy updates. So I recommend the board accepts the proposal for revision of policy 3.1 MH for the 25-26 personnel policies.
I move the board approves the recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion from second Neil, and a second from Molly. Any discussion? Is there a way we can put, if they want to have, to stop adding during that year, during that time frame?
Yeah, they can't.
Okay,
Is
so
that what
this
you're saying?
is
So this-
cutting it off to where
Now
if you don't have anything in after June 30th,
You're done for
you're
the year.
done. You gotta wait. Okay, that's all.
So
I-
actually, you're asking the year before.
Right.
For your new
Call it
contract.
budget.
And then we would know if approved for budget. And I have heard from some of you all too about possibly bringing those requests maybe in twice a year instead of every month. And that's something that you all can let us know your preference. I don't think Mr. Engel, PPC would, if this passed, I don't think that PPC would care either way, because the main thing is they're in by June 30th for the upcoming fiscal year.
We can keep approving them throughout the year, but it's.
Yes, sir, you can. You can. And that may be easier too, so that you can think through and see.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely open and would be happy to share with PPC, or you all can share which way you prefer them to be brought, if this passes, is how I could see that being something you could do either way.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Board discussion friends. Come on, somebody's got to have some discussion. It's turkey time.
Turkey time?
You got discussion?
I've got
Okay,
discussion.
let's have it.
It's
Boss
playoff
man.
season.
It is playoff season.
It is
And we had a
playoff.
great Friday night last
Absolutely.
week.
Proud to be a Bomber, for sure. Any of y'all going tomorrow? Yeah, good.
I'm not on the board, but I'm going.
I have children going that took my bedroom that I was staying in. It's all good. Good.
Ms. Dewey, do you have some discussion for us?
I do. A couple of things. First of all, as you know, we have been very, very busy. We've had a busy week. We've had a busy month. It's been a good month. We did go to Beaufort this month for the drop-in with Dewey on the road. Mr. Smetsky, thank you for going with me. We did not have a great turnout that night. It was
Anybody?
pretty nasty. We had two.
Two?
Which I thought was great. One was the fire chief, and he is next door.
Oh.
But he is a constituent.
He was wondering what you were doing there?
He is a constituent, so we talked and visited. So we did talk to two that night. Our plans for the future include some events, us going to events, so hopefully we'll have a better
They
turnout.
have a great turkey dinner.
I have
Yeah.
heard that
Oh, yes.
down there.
Yeah.
Anyway, next drop-in will be in January here at Central Office. We will skip the month of December mainly because it's really short this year. We're only here a few weeks, and it's getting pretty packed pretty quickly. I will tell you, Ms. Horton is not here today. Something for you all to discuss, but she has expressed an interest. After hours meetings are not super easy for her right now, and she would just prefer if there's anybody who would be interested. She is currently serving on the PPC committee. Those are not, y'all didn't have to vote for those positions. So if somebody wanted to switch, she would be, that would work for any of you all. If not, I'm sure she'll be happy to continue serving.
Anyone?
What time does PPC meet?
3:45, the first Wednesday of the month.
First Wednesday.
Is that?
Taker? I think you would be fantastic on
Sure,
PPC.
so I would leave CPPC.
I would
and
ask
then
Ms.
if
Horton would
that's
take, because that's easier for her to
we
do
just
right now. You know,
swap 'em.
she's had some stuff, and we want to, I think she would just prefer a swap with somebody.
And CPPC meets at 1:15, so if that's a
During the
better time
day.
for her than that,
If-
I'm happy to make that swap.
Before
if that
3
helps.
is good for her.
If that's better.
Yeah.
If that helps her out, I'm happy to make that swap.
Okay, so I think if that's okay, we'll just,
All right.
Mr. Dringle, it'll be Mr. Booth.
Duly
and
noted.
I'll let Ms. Horton know that, and I'll let the CPPC know what we're doing.
So your first meeting will be December 3rd?
It's coming up, yeah. Our 4th. It's the 4th.
It's the fourth.
Fourth, Wednesday.
CPPC meets on the 3rd.
Yes.
Okay.
Third.
So
It's the 4th.
tell Barbara.
I will let Ms. Horton know. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Booth,
All
for
right,
being
thank
willing to
you.
do that. I also got to spend the day working in the kitchen at Pinkston. Those are some hard-working ladies, and I'm gonna tell you something. I have a new appreciation for our food service.
Yes.
Wow.
Been there myself, and
It is, first of all, they love what they're doing. They love it. They love serving kids. They start early and they stay late. Just a really good experience. I'm glad I got to do that. I don't know if, I know I washed a bunch of dishes that they didn't have to that day, so I hope they felt like that was helpful. But, whew, scrubbing those things, I got eggs in my mouth. It was
beautiful.
Rookie mistake.
Rookie, they say keep your mouth closed while you're doing that, and I was like, okay, you know, and I'm going, and I thought, that's why you keep your mouth shut. So they
Nice.
told me, I was warned. Been at letters training this week, leaders in literacy, letters training. Our elementary principals have been doing that as well, so I think it definitely fits our strategic plan of academic excellence for our students, and it is about reading instruction in our classroom. So that was with some superintendents from around the state. This was the second cohort. Really good stuff, and we're on the right track. We just gotta execute. Couple dates. Lunch meeting at Mountain Home Junior High on Monday when we get back. We will not have any action items. that day, and I don't have the time. Ms. Kelly, did we get a time? Okay, it is at 11, so I didn't have the time yet, so 11 on the 2nd. If you can be there, and I'll send a reminder. ASBA, your Arkansas School Board Association Conference, starts on Wednesday, 12/11, is over Thursday about noon.
Thursday?
Friday.
What did I say? I
You're-
said Wednesday,
yeah.
Wednesday.
Well, it starts Wednesday, but it's over Friday.
It's over
at noon.
Friday at noon. Did find out that we had missed an email. We found out yesterday an email we submitted 2 proposals for presentations. Found out that both were accepted. We only thought one was, but the first one was, the email was sent somewhere different. We found it. So the Outdoor Adventures, Brady Pinka, Ms. House got the email too.
Mhm.
And we're hopeful to have somebody from Arkansas Game and Fish there to present with him on Thursday morning. And then on Thursday afternoon, we'll have an opportunity to present about some of the growth and challenges for the district and the board. So excited about that. Regular meeting on the 19th. And then if you'll go ahead and mark your calendars, 1/23, so January 23rd of 2025. I believe it's at 5:30, but I'll send you the time on that. Lisa Jones will be here. As you know, she helps us with our facilities planning. She's going to talk to us about the future. What are some possibilities? What are some options? Financial advice, timing,
Good.
different things like that as far as facilities
Good,
goes.
good,
So
good.
she'll be here that day. Lots to be thankful for as we enter the holiday season. And thankful for our students and families, thankful for our teachers and staff, thankful for our administrators, and thankful for the board for the work that you all do, serving students in our community. That's all we have one more thing. We need a
Mhm.
voting delegate for ASBA.
That's Wednesday afternoon, 4:35, I think, is when that usually
Usually.
happens.
Who's going early? I can.
I think
Since this is-
everybody has a room Wednesday night, and it starts, they're actually starting sessions, it looked like Wednesday morning.
They do
There was
early
some
birds.
early bird stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have some rooms. I'll be just reaching out to those of you who are attending. I think everybody's attending this year. So I'll reach out, get your preferences, and make sure we have you all set up. But we still need a delegate.
I really recommend a board officer be that voting delegate.
I'm going early Wednesday.
You
so-
are?
I'll be
Mhm.
down early on Wednesday as well.
So, have y'all decided?
What time are you going?
I haven't decided,
Yeah, me neither.
but it's Wednesday afternoon, right?
Yeah, it's
Typically.
at
Oh, I'll
5
be-
o'clock.
Yeah,
Oh,
it'd
I'll
be
be
late
there.
Wednesday afternoon usually.
That's what I thought.
I don't know if that's appointed.
No, I mean,
I don't think
typically
you have to
board
vote.
president fills
Yeah.
that
Okay,
position. so-
I will
You're good.
gladly take that.
I think last year you weren't able to attend, and
Yes.
so somebody stepped in
I
for you.
think I
Okay.
So
last
you
year.
do want to try to get the material ahead of time to read before,
That would be good.
yeah.
Will they send that? I don't remember how we got it last year.
They will email in, sometimes even mail it, but they will email it.
So we'll need to let them know who our voting delegate
Yes.
is as well. We got it.
Alright.
We got that. We've got 2 things to tell them.
Any other discussion? Happy Thanksgiving, friends. Thank you. Okay. None. We will break for executive session to discuss personnel, employment, retirements, and transfers.
Okay.
And to